Welcome to Adventures of Alice and Bob, the security podcast where we reverse engineer the lives of the people shaping the cybersecurity industry today to find out a little bit about their journey, the events that have shaped their career, and what drives and motivates them. Today's guest is Heath Adams, otherwise known as the Cyber Mentor or TCM, an ethical hacker and co-founder of TCM Security. His passion for cybersecurity education, making it accessible and affordable, means that TCM not only offer consultancy service, but also a dedicated security academy with a range of practical training and certification. As the Cyber Mentor, Heath leverages his skills to educate others through YouTube and online courses. The Cyber Mentor YouTube channel has over 700,000 subscribers and hundreds of videos offering a wide range of careers and skills advice. From a 12-hour-long ethical hacking video that's ranked up almost nearly, 5 million views now, Heath, to shorter videos on motivation, productivity, and skill development. So if you haven't already seen these, we'll include links in the podcast description so you can like and subscribe. Heath, welcome to the podcast today.
Hey, James. Thanks for having me.
Whereabouts are you joining us from today, Heath?
I am in New Mexico right now.
Fantastic. Well,
yeah.
It's great to have you on the podcast today. And what we normally do is start right at the beginning of this, because I believe your interest in computers started at quite a young age, back in the days of Prodigy dial-up. So can you tell us a little bit about that time and where your interest in technology first began?
Yeah, definitely started young. I think we got our first computer when I was 4, back when we were in the megahertz days, not the gigahertz, and using Prodigy before AOL. And yeah, I've been using a computer as long as I can remember. I started tinkering, taking things apart when I was a little bit younger. And I remember my mom went to college, and when I was around 10, was taking HTML classes. So I would just grab her books and started learning how to design websites and program a little bit. And so the passion there started at a younger age. It's not something I immediately went into. I actually went into accounting first, and that's what my degree's in and my background. And then eventually ended up switching to IT. Kind of that light bulb went off, and it was like, "What are you doing? This is not what you like doing." And ever since switching to IT, I think I found my true passion, which is computers for sure.
That's fantastic. Let's just dive into that a little bit, because I think it's really interesting the path you've taken into cybersecurity. So, like you say, you didn't go straight into cybersecurity. You started off with accountancy, and I believe, listening to previous interviews with yourself, you saw that as the safe career path. But what was the point at which you decided that accountancy just didn't add up for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a lot of the long hours, no rewards, and I'd sacrificed what felt like a lot of my life for my job. I was making, when I first came out, I was making $40,000 a year, and we were working, so many hours. When I ended up doing the math, and I was making less than minimum wage when you were breaking it down hourly, and I eventually went back and decided to go do my MBA. When I came out of my MBA, I got an offer for $55,000, and I ended up taking that, which was in literally the middle of nowhere. So I moved probably 6 hours away from my closest friend. I remember picking out where I was going to live because the job was so remote. I picked out where I was going to live based on what town had a Walmart, because that's how big we were looking for. And that ended up being 45 minutes away. So I ended up waking up very early. It was not light out, and I would drive to work, get to work. I would work forever, and then I would drive home, and it was not light out. And to top it off, I just had, what I would consider the micromanager from hell. I remember trying to leave one day at 4:59, and she said, "Where are you going? It's not 5:00. And it's just it was one of those bad situations where I had no friends, no family, nobody around, bad manager, wasn't getting enough sunlight probably. And I remember literally just putting my keys on my desk at lunchtime, putting my work card, my badge, everything, and I just left. No 2-week notice, no nothing. Not the best way to exit, but I had it. And I wasn't sure what my next journey was. I was just sure it wasn't in that place. And so I packed all my things up, broke my lease, maxed out my credit card, and just ended up moving to New Mexico, on a random whim. Just drove out here, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I decided, I'm gonna drive for Uber until I figure it out. And remember starting to like realize what it was I wanted to do and really thinking about it, and ended up finding a help desk job, talked my way in. I did not belong there. And the rest was history. I ended up finding out about hacking through that job and started learning about ethical hacking and training myself, and eventually worked my way into becoming a cybersecurity person and going that direction. So it's been a weird journey, but it's definitely not a straight path, but I'm glad it's the one I took.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a Hollywood-esque thing there of that moment. And I think we've probably all had it in a job at some point where we've fantasized about that thing where we just, you throw the lanyard and the keys down in the cubicle, stride out across the car park, tear the tie off and drive off into the sunset.
Yeah.
Like that's something that most people don't do because, even no matter how bad the job is, they fear what's going to happen next. What was that like for you emotionally? Was it something you actually found it a relief, or was it actually just a moment of terror and you're like, I need to find something to do now?
It was a relief. I thought things would move a little bit faster. Like I, for example, did not know how long it would actually take to become an Uber driver. It's like, oh, I'll just apply and next week I'll be driving and making some money and I'll figure it out. It took literally over a month to get it even approved. So it wasn't something I hit different milestones at different times than I expected, but I ended up getting very lucky and getting that help desk job probably within a month and a half. Otherwise, yeah, I was doing anything I could just to make a little bit extra money, whether that was, hey, pawning stuff off or going and doing odd jobs off Craigslist, whatever I could do to make a little bit of money in the interim. I just knew I was done with accounting.
And what would you say to someone who's listening to the podcast? Maybe they're an accountant, maybe they're not, but maybe they've just had enough of their job. They want to get into the cybersecurity industry and they're thinking, that's what I should do. I should just walk out today and, ride out into sunset and get into cybersecurity. What would you say to them today?
Yeah, I mean, just have a plan. Ultimately, your mental health is going to be most important. So if you've hit the wall, it's more detrimental for you to be in that job, in that position, than to just not have a job. Just make sure you have a plan. Make sure for me, my plan was I'm going to max out these credit cards. And it ended up working out. Not that it's great financial advice by any means, but just make sure you think 3-6 months ahead. What happens if I don't find a job in this market? What am I going to do? How am I going to maybe hustle a little bit to earn some cash until I can figure out the next step? But sometimes leaving on a whim like that is necessary for your mental health. But if you can stick it out, if it's something where, hey, it's not that bad, I just know I don't want to do this forever, then yeah, definitely keep your job. Start working on your studies and make that transition a little bit easier. But it just depends on your situation overall.
Yeah, that's great advice. And yes, by no means is this a financial advice podcast. So,
no.
Your mileage may vary in these circumstances. Yes. A lot of our guests on this podcast, a lot of great people in cybersecurity came into the industry through the help desk. So what was it about working the help desk that you found useful in transitioning in, and how did it come about that you thought, actually, I'm in the help desk, but where I want to go is cybersecurity, ethical hacking, penetration testing?
Yeah, so I think working the help desk was one of the best experiences I had. For me, I worked for a managed service provider, MSP. And so what was nice about that is we're not working just like for a hospital, for example, like internally. If you work at a big place, you're basically working, maybe handling one ticketing system for one product. For us, we were handling everything for everyone. So I quickly learned Windows, Mac, Linux, and I remember just taking classes and being the one that was volunteering to take on clients, because I worked for a company that would just sell and say, yeah, we know how to do that, and nobody on staff know how to do it. So I picked up a lot. I drank from the fire hose, and I just every day was something different, and that's something I really appreciated. Is I just got to learn so many different things. For me personally, I was sitting in the office one day. I remember this conversation. My coworker was telling me, hey, do you know that you can get paid to be a hacker? And I was like, no, you can't. Don't. You're just like, you're messing with me. And sure enough, I went and did my research that night, and you can be paid to be a hacker. And that image back then for me was just like everybody else, a bad guy in a hoodie. Yep. And nowadays it's, hey, there's a lot of good people on this side doing it. And so For me, I remember going out, doing all my research that night, figuring out what certifications maybe I needed, what training I needed to do, who were the training providers, and what was that path going to look like. And I realized there was probably still a stepping stone in between, which is why I ended up going and working in network engineering for a little bit. But it was just what foundational skills do I need, and how do I work my way through that into the field. And so it became my passion literally from that day, and I was obsessed with it. And it was everything I expected to be once I entered the field too.
And it's interesting these days. There are some, really well-defined paths into the cybersecurity industry. You can go, straight to college and come out as a penetration tester effectively. You can learn ethical hacking in courses there. But a lot of the guests we talk to have gone different routes and come at it from different sides, whether it's the help desk or completely different angles at all, military, all kinds of different people we have on. What do you think are some of the benefits or things you've learned by maybe not going straight into technology and cybersecurity and going through these different journeys and paths?
Yeah, I don't regret being an accountant whatsoever. An accountant made me a better consultant, made me a better business owner. And so a lot of the skill set that I was doing in accounting, because I worked in public accounting first. So I was working and I was doing technical stuff, technical accounting. I was going through and I was building reports. I was working with CEOs and CTOs, CFOs, all the big name people, and I was debriefing them about everything that I was finding. And that translates to consulting. It is consulting. And so when I went into pen testing, I think I had a big advantage because I already knew how to do a lot of the other skills. Like I was pretty good at report writing. I was pretty good at talking to C-level executives, pretty good at breaking things down so that they could understand it from a technical to a non-technical standpoint. So really, it was just learning the technical side of things on how to be a hacker and then applying all the other concepts that I've learned. And then those carried over into business as well. Being able to know accounting and being able to have the MBA, it really helped with running a business. And so those are all valuable skill sets that I really don't regret having.
So you mentioned there obviously running a business, and you went on to found your own company. What made you think, I want to just do this for myself rather than, working for someone doing the consultancy side of things?
Yeah, so I can kind of give you the background. We started as, well, I say when I first got interested in cybersecurity, I found this Slack channel. It was just a random thing I stumbled upon, and it was a bunch of people that were trying to get into cybersecurity as well. So it was a good network of people. I ended up starting to find people that were military veterans. I'm a military veteran. And we started just having these private conversations. Like we would find one, we'd add it to our private conversation. Eventually, we got so big that I think it's 10 people that we outgrew the private conversation size or the DM size. And we went to the server and said, hey, would you mind if you just made us a private channel so we can all kind of have a place to chat? And we outgrew ourselves here. And they said, well, we think you're a liability. Being in the military, what if you share secrets or whatever? I understood, but okay, cool. So we ended up going and doing our own thing, and we founded this company. We founded this foundation called VetSec or VeteranSec, and that ended up being this place where we decided, okay, we're going to become a nonprofit, and we're going to help people that are military veterans or current in the military, and those people are transitioning. Doesn't matter what country you're in. We're just going to help them go through this transition process, and we're going to create some cybersecurity content for them. So little old me with a 720p camera and a really bad microphone just started putting together like basic networking courses and basic hacking courses and just putting them on YouTube. And this was really for the VetSec group. It wasn't expected to like grow that it did, but it started to take off, like 10,000, 20,000 subscribers. And at the time I was working as a hacker and a penetration tester, and there started to be clients that were coming to the organization that I was working for, and they were asking for me. And I saw Heath on social media. I saw Heath on YouTube. And so they were winning business because of me, but they were not giving me any monetary reward for giving them business, which you should definitely do. Hey, 80%, 90% of something is better than 100% of nothing. And so I decided, hey, if they're coming for me and I'm not going to see anything from it, I might as well go try to do this myself. And so that was where the light bulb went off. I'm going to go start a consultancy, and I'm going to try to use my social media presence to market to that consultancy. And here we are.
So we mentioned right at the start that there's kind of two aspects to your business. There's the consultancy side and there's an education side. So starting off with that consultancy side where, you had clients coming asking for you, they'd seen you on social media, you wanted to set up your own consultancy practice. From your perspective, what does good look like in security consulting? Where are you thinking that the main piece of value that you're adding there is?
That's a great question. And that's what people ask me all the time is like, I want to go start a business. Well, what's going to make you different than everybody else? And for us, it was quality and reputation. I was teaching things and I was very knowledgeable on topics that nobody was really teaching, especially like internal pen testing, Active Directory hacking. There wasn't really good information out there about it. And so clients came to us, and the really big thing is communication. So for us, I am always talking to a client. So it's not like, hey, pen test is starting. Okay, a week later, pen test is finished. A week later, you get a report. By the time you get that report, you know everything in it. It's a formality because we are constantly communicating. And even to this day, like that's the thing that really separates us is all the pen testers that we hire are also educators. And they love to teach these things. So if we have something where we find something on a pen test, hey, let's hop on a call. Let me show you how I did this and how we found this. And let's talk about why this is bad. So there are no surprises. You're getting this engagement, you're getting this quality of work, and you're getting communication. And communication, just like any relationship, is so important. Client relationship, personal relationship, friendships, anything. If you're communicating, it's going to be a better experience. And a lot of companies don't communicate very well. And that instantly set us apart. We don't do like outbound marketing. We don't do, at least for the consulting side, we don't pay for Google ads. It is all word of mouth. It is all reputation based. And people know when they come to us, you won't find a bad review about our consulting services online. It's because we do a really good job. And so we focus on customer service and everything else. And we being a boutique as well, we give you that smaller feeling. Like we're like a tailor. We're giving you a personal touch where somebody may be just giving you a suit off the rack at these bigger companies. And a lot of clients love that feeling. And that's what we try to give them every time.
And I'm assuming that a lot of that must come from the culture at the company, you investing in people and empowering them to don't just throw a report at the client, go have that conversation, do those kind of things. So how do you define the culture and how does that culture impact on, the business that you're able to deliver?
Yeah, you make a good point. Our whole philosophy is people first, or people over profits is what we say. And it's, if you take care of your people, if you take care of your customers. So if you pay your people well, you give them good benefits, you listen to them, you train them, they're not going to want to leave. And if they don't want to leave, then guess what? You don't have turnover. And if you don't have turnover, you don't have costs associated with that. And so your bottom line is affected. So many companies focus on, I'm going to look at the bottom line. I'm going to work on just making sure that number is as big as possible. Sure. But from the other side of it, you can focus on the people and that bottom line is going to be there. And same thing with customers. If you treat your customers well, you give them a good experience, even consulting side or on the academy side, we've got 24/7, 365 support. You email in, somebody's going to respond to you within 10 minutes. Nobody's really doing that. And so we are working on focusing on people. You give them a great experience and they will come back time and time again. They're going to go tell their friends. They're going to tell everybody else. And that's what it is. It's been word of mouth, reputation based, and just building that core reputation and focusing on people and listening to them and taking care of them. And then, hey, the revenue shows up and the profits show up from it as well.
I mean, it's a wonderful and a very refreshing approach. We see a lot of companies in the industry talk about how the customers are their number one priority and, the customer is the most important thing. And will sometimes, downplay the impact that customer behavior or challenges can have on their own staff. So how do you deal with that kind of potential conflict between putting your people first and putting, the client's needs first as well?
Yeah, it's a balance. I think we do a really good job of it. A lot of the thing is that our employees also have that same culture or feel. So they're also putting the client first. And so we have a very open door policy for us internally. So you can come to me if you want. You can go to your manager, whoever you feel comfortable with, and say, hey, I think this is a bad idea, or I think we're doing this wrong. And we're going to listen. We never think there is a bad idea. We always listen to recommendations and we want feedback. And if there's something we're not doing well, we want to improve. And so listening to our people, very important. Same thing with customers. hey, this course lesson could have been taught a little bit better, or you could do some extra resources around this, or here's a link of a really good blog. Cool. We want to know what we're doing well and what we're not doing well. And we want to focus on both of those things. How can we improve the things we're already doing great? And also, how can we improve from a standpoint where we aren't doing so great? And so we just listen. And I think that pays its dividends. And you just kind of have to balance between that. Like, our customers keep us in check, our employees keep management in check. And as long as you're listening to feedback and criticism and you're accepting that, then it goes a long way.
I think there's a lot of organizations that could definitely learn from that. And just that idea of you look after the people and the people will naturally look after the client is a really nice way to think about things. So thinking about some of the examples from the field of engagements your team have been working in, one of the examples that I came across in the research was the time your team hacked into the system of a city's second in command. So that sounds like quite an interesting pen test engagement. Maybe you could talk us through what you were doing and what some of the challenges with that particular engagement were.
Sure. Yeah, it was a surprise for us. So we have several cities that are clients, bigger and smaller, and so depending on the scope of the city, sometimes the scope is wide open, like any city employee, any department, and that's pretty big when you consider a city. Wow. So when we were doing this pen test, we're not necessarily targeting any department specifically. We are going out there and we're doing intelligence gathering. And this was, I should preface this was an external pen test to start. So external being outside looking in. And a lot of that is, okay, well, what intelligence can we gather about an organization? Who works for this company? What is their email address format? Have their people ever been involved in a breach? Can we find out those passwords? What passwords might they be using? Who are is it password 123? Is it company name 123? Is it location based? And we put together all this intel before we even start hacking. And so we go through and we collect all this data. And sure enough, we end up doing password spraying and we get an account. I don't remember what the password was. It was pretty weak, something like spring 2022, or I don't know, something along those lines. Problem being is they did not have MFA on their account. So we were able to log right in. Cool. We start digging around a little bit of the email address of this person, and we quickly realized that, second in command at the police department of this city. And so things just quickly turn from bad to worse the more we discover. So we're clicking through the emails. We figure out, okay, there's a VPN. Let's go ahead and log into the VPN. Cool. We're on inside the network now. Oh, look, there's a SharePoint in here, internal SharePoint, and just start chipping away at logging into these things. No MFA, no great password policy. Well, we start finding Crime Stopper reports, and those are saying, hey, here are anonymous, sort of anonymous tips that are given. But a lot of that intel could have been, hey, this person works with this person was one of the examples that we give. And so these tips and these hints could give away who is the person actually being the tipster. Police schedules were on there, when they were working, what cars they were in, what beats they were on. And then also, this was during the height of all of the police animosity. It's still going on, but this was early COVID time. And so that was like really, really bad things could have happened at this point. And so things just kept getting worse. We found the CI, or the confidential informant list, and we were able to see who was doing drug buys, who were the informants, where were they buying, what were they buying. And it was just really bad. So at that time, this was a incredibly eye-opening thing for us and for the client, because it could have been really bad in the wrong hands. A lot of people were hacking police departments at the same time. And so having that pen test done when they had it done actually was very beneficial and possibly could have saved lives. We don't know what the effect was there. But it was just a crazy set of steps that kept going on and going on, to us leading to more and more information as we dug into this. And so it was one of my most memorable experiences for sure.
I mean, it's sort of fascinating from your perspective, because like you say, it's a time where there's a lot of things going on in society, a lot of pressures going on there, potential civil unrest things. And it's not just, hackers getting in there, but you're able to get in there. You need to, not only do your job and be able to find all those vulnerabilities, but make sure you're not accidentally exposing any of this information and doing things, What what sort of things, how do you factor in kind of things like, we often talk about the technical scope of an engagement, but how do you factor in the risk of like societal impact and ethical boundaries and things like that when you're doing an engagement like that?
Yeah, I mean, we understand our ethical obligation, but sometimes I think it's hard to have, I guess, for it to be tangible of the impact that we're having on the other side too.
Yeah.
We're testing organizations, and hey, it could be that we found something that some would have eventually been found, and it could have led to detrimental results. We never know because we're in there early enough, which is good. And so, from our standpoint, we have our ethical guidelines that we go by. We have got to stay in scope. Where the data lives, what data gets deleted when this is all done, and making sure that, yes, nothing gets into the wrong hands. And even going further, like we see sloppy pen tests too. Like a good example of this is if we go do a pen test and let's say we compromise the domain controller. There have been times where we've compromised the domain controller and we see other pen test companies' domain admin accounts still living there because they never deleted them from their last engagement. And that is an additional foothold that you have now left behind for somebody else. So we always say you should leave the place like you found it. And so any account you create, anything that you do, any gap that you find, it should be right back where you found it. Let the client go remediate it. Don't go try to patch things. Don't go create accounts and leave them there. And so our team's well trained on that. And it's just something that you have to be very cautious of because, yeah, you don't want to be the cause of a breach either from an ethical standpoint. So.
And were the findings of that particular incident well received? I know that you can sometimes have challenges where people get upset that you've accessed this data and you've been able to see these things. Even if you're exposing a legitimate weakness that they need to understand and deal with, they can still be upset that you were able to do it in the first place and saw those things.
Immediately fixed. It was very impressive because we actually found out that internal SharePoint could be accessed externally. And we did not know that at the time, but we started digging and just prodding. And yeah, sure enough, you can access that. So all the things we did to get on the VPN and navigate around didn't even have to do. And so that got shut down the same day. Access got shut down to that. They went and fixed password policy almost immediately. They went and implemented MFA almost immediately. And they saw the dangers and the risk of what could have happened. And so, yes, you're correct. There are times where we will go and we'll write this really bad report, just like a lot of criticals, all this stuff, come back the next year to test it. And all those things are still there. And it was like, cool, we checked the box for you. Glad to see that you took this serious. But in this instance, no, they absolutely were fast to remediate. They were on top of it. And we were equally as impressed because it does take time usually for, especially in big cities, for a change management process to happen. But they were on top of things.
Yeah, I mean, SharePoint's a fascinating one that I've seen more and more in our research here at Beyond Trust, where we're looking at what threat actors are doing. They're targeting identities and wiki pages, public SharePoint, or even internal SharePoints that, once an attacker gets a foothold in the network, they go on that and they find, well, someone's left some credentials or some secrets or a step-by-step guide as to how to set up a connection to a system in the organization that organizations have just, often long forgotten about these docs that exist, these accounts that exist, and they cause them no end of trouble. I'm curious, in other engagements you've done, what are some of the other things that have really surprised you when you've been looking at things like you didn't think this would happen, or you didn't think this should have been configured this way, and they've just been basically sat on a time bomb effectively?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of them. I'll start off by saying, for us, if we get a password, especially through Office 365, we're logging in and we're looking at a few things. We're looking at SharePoint. We're looking at your files. A lot of times it's easy to give overly permissive settings there or just misconfigure them. Entra or Azure is a really big one too. A lot of times we see the ability for people to actually be admins in there and have computer access and things that they shouldn't be seeing and control the domain. So it could be really, really bad. I remember I could tell you about some wacky things. I can give one from a pen test where it's just kind of like digging deep. And so we were on a pen test where we were doing an engagement internally. So inside looking in at this time, looking to try to maybe compromise a domain controller. And there are a few different things that we look for early on in a pen test. One of those is a protocol called LLMNR. And so we're looking for that. Basically, it's a attacker in the middle thing. A hash gets sent to you. You can capture these hashes, take them offline, and crack them. And so for this engagement in particular, I was seeing hashes fly through insanely quick. I think we captured 50 in the first hour. And then I took those and we were trying to crack them and we cracked 25. that is, hey, you have a really bad password policy if we're cracking half of your passwords just by capturing a hash and trying to go crack it. So not great. You could tell that they hadn't been through a pen test. Usually if you've been through one, that protocol is disabled. Now we took that and we started trying to go use those accounts to actually log in. Hopefully somebody was a local admin. Well, no, nobody was a local admin. They were actually doing that right. They were using laps and they were protecting their users from being a local admin, which is a great security practice. And so we were kind of in this weird place. There were other attacks there. I won't really go into the story too deep, but ultimately we ended up finding that one of the users that we captured had a misconfiguration where they had access to more file shares than they needed. And so they had access to everybody's, it's called public when you scan to a share, but in reality, it's not public, it's public, but their folders for everybody are private. They had access to everyone's folders, didn't matter. So my immediate reaction was, I'm going to go look at the admins, who are our help desk people, who are our domain admins, and can I find anything of value in there? So I dug through. I remember I stumbled upon this folder that was Windows Setup Guide and Mac Setup Guide. And so the day that I found it, I looked at the Windows Setup Guide. There was nothing in there. And I was like, Mac Setup Guide's not all that interest to me. And I'm just going to leave this. Slept on it. I think I dreamt about it because I couldn't get the foothold. And then I went back and I was like, I'm going to look at that folder again. Looked at the Mac Setup Guide. And sure enough, there was a password in there for their initial setup. And it was like, here is your username. Here is your password. Cool. I don't know if this is going to work, but now I've at least got something here for me. So took that password and I did a password spray essentially around the SMB protocol in the network. And I just used a local administrator. So I just used local account of administrator, used that password. I knew they were using LAP. So I was just kind of like finger crossed, Hail Mary. Sure enough, it lands on one machine. The one machine is called admin server. So that's cool. Log into admin server and I go in there and we have this thing called secrets dump. So we can dump out the local SAM, we can dump out the local user hashes, we can dump out possibly credentials in clear text. There's a bunch of different ways to do that. wdigest is a protocol. Passwords stored in registry could possibly do that as well. So sure enough, we dump the secrets on this machine and there is a password sitting there in clear text. That password happens to be to a service account. This service account was a domain admin. You shouldn't do that. And we were able to then compromise the domain. So it was like this little chain of attacks. Like if this one person didn't have that access, or if that one file wasn't there, if that one server was on lapse, or any of these things, that password wasn't in clear text, the service account wasn't an admin, we would not have gotten compromised on that. But it's all about enumeration. And people ask me what makes a really good hacker. It's the ones that are willing to go above and beyond, the ones that are willing to enumerate and dig deep and perform reconnaissance and actually understand and learn the system as they're going and try to think like a regular user would think, because that's the person that's probably going to make the mistake in the misconfiguration.
I think what's really interesting is listening to you describing that incident. I can see why you live up to the name of the cyber mentor, because you're not just describing all the flaws in the incident. You're going through it going, you should disable this. You should use this tool. You should enable this. You shouldn't be using these kind of accounts on there. So like you constantly, as you do in the narrative there, you're giving that education. So we definitely need to talk about the education piece, because that's something you're clearly very passionate about. And I know in the research for this, I saw you talking about how you were in a fortunate position because you had employers put you through certifications and trainings that would otherwise have been unaffordable at the time. And I think the thing that I really like about your story is you didn't just sit there and think, right, great, I've got the qualifications, I've got the certifications, I've made it, I've put in the work, I've climbed the mountain, now I can reap the rewards. You took a look back and went, okay, how do I help other people get to this stage? How do I make it easier for them to climb that mountain without having to have, a sort of benevolent employer who's going to help them go those things? So what's your motivation to do that in a world where so many people just act as gatekeepers of knowledge?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is my upbringing. I grew up incredibly poor. And so for me, my background is I grew up only child. My grandparents had passed away. My parents were not together. My dad was never in the picture. And so my dad and my mom were both high school dropouts. Nobody in my family had ever graduated college. And so I became first generation high school graduate. first generation college graduate, took in all this debt and all these other fun things. And ultimately, my mom passed away when I was 19. So like from that point on, did not have family in the traditional sense. Like I don't have brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, any of that stuff. And so I just remember how hard it was to overcome that challenge. For me, it was very easy. Like there were times where I was tempted, hey, you're broke. Why don't you maybe go buy some drugs and try to sell it? Those thoughts did cross my mind, because how do you get out of this bad situation? And so I was maxing out everything I could to go to school, and I chose accountancy not because I was enjoyed or like passionate about it. I chose it because it was safe. Everybody needs an accountant, decent career, paying field. I said, hey, I'm going to try to turn my life around. And ultimately, I remember just those feelings, and I remember I don't want people to feel that way. And at the time, if I was trying to get into IT and somebody was saying, hey, go get this certification, it's only $1,500, I would never have come up with that. And so how do we get somebody training and people, especially in countries not in the US, like third world countries where the cost of living is completely different, and even $30 is a lot of money. It could be a month's salary. How do we change that? How do we get somebody into this field that can pay you $100,000, $150,000, $200,000, can be life-changing, can literally change the projection of your family and turn things around? How can we get that education to them without pricing somebody out? And so that's our philosophy. I don't want anybody to ever go through what I went through, and I don't want people to be priced out of education. So yeah, I'd rather sell things cheaply and reach the masses, even give away a lot of times, just to be able to hopefully change lives. And that's what we're after is this mission of affordability and practicality. We have amazing training, arguably some of the best training on the market, and you're not going to find it for a better price than ours. And we want to make sure that anybody that wants to come take the training can afford the training that goes through it.
And what's the market for your training? Are you expecting people who have a level of technology, or are you looking to take people who are maybe in completely unrelated fields who aren't that familiar with technology and upskill them right the way through?
That's a great question. When we first started, our first course was practical ethical hacking. And so, yeah, you need foundational skills to get into ethical hacking. And we taught some of them, like it covers networking, it covers Python and programming. But in reality, if you don't have that foundation, you're probably going to be, oh, I don't know what that means. Let me go study that. And it's going to take you longer to get through the content. So for us, we've been working on this mission of what we call move backwards to move forwards. A lot of our clients or our customers, they want more and more and more advanced content, right? Because they've been through the content. But hey, what about everybody else that doesn't have those foundational skills? So right now we're working on a course called Practical Help Desk, and we're going to be working on a network engineering course. We've got programming content now. We've got a Linux 101 course. So that eventually, if somebody wants to come to the platform and they want to get all those foundational skills, they can do all of that and then decide, do I want to go into cybersecurity? And then if they do, okay, cool. What path do you want to go down? Because now we've got red team, we've got blue team, we've got GRC. And so we're trying to be the one-stop shop for everything practical and affordable in this space. And we're just thinking about it a little bit differently. So this whole process has been, how do we work backwards a little bit? And then we'll start moving forward with everybody else.
It's just wonderful to hear, like, that practical help desk, that getting that foothold in, which is, again, it's a great pathway into cybersecurity. Start off with a help desk, find out what the problems are. A lot of people say the help desk, I found out where all the bodies were buried in, security. And I was able then to go on to exploit those in pen testing exercises later to, great effect. But one of the things, talking to you is your focus on helping people to succeed really seems to underpin everything. And one of the unique examples of this is, I think, in your academy, you go beyond just technical hacking skills and qualifications there, and you started actually doing like practical career guidance, and that occurs as both a paid program that you can go through your academy, but also the video content you're putting out there on YouTube. So why was it you thought there was a need to go beyond the technical aspect and do the career advice part of things as well?
Yeah, I think so many people struggle with soft skills. And so we made a course for it, because you can learn all this technical stuff and then you get to an interview and you're just this like technical, maybe dry person. You don't have those personable skills to make you likable. And so how do we teach people how to be a little bit more personal or have these soft skills? And also, when you're applying for a job, you are a piece of paper, and you're a piece of paper competing against other pieces of paper. And you have to have a way to stand out on that sheet, or You need to go start networking with other people, get your name out there, plant seeds. And then when that piece of paper comes across their desk, it's more of a formality. Oh, I know this person. I'm going to bring them in for an interview. So we talk about, how do I write a resume? How do I stand out? How do I go and get these soft skills? How do I maybe write a website for myself that is kind of promotional and says, hey, here's my blog, or here's some things that I'm learning right now. And just documenting this stuff helps you learn, helps you retain the information. It looks good to employers. And so what is going to make you stand out? Is it volunteering at a conference? Is it becoming a YouTuber? There's a lot of different journeys that can kind of go above and beyond. Well, I've got this degree and these certifications. Cool. Everybody has those degrees and those certifications. So how are you going to stand out against them? We talk about how to network with people, how to be a member of the community, how to give back, and how to make sure that you're not taking more than you're giving back, kind of thing. And all these skills are important. Interviewing skills. Behavioral questions are really big. Sure, we know the technical side, but have you thought about the behavioral side? Have you thought about the STAR method for responding to interview questions? And what are people going to be asking you and expecting from you? So we have that course. It is on our academy. We have a bigger program where we put you through resume review, mock interviews, all the fun stuff before you actually go out and do it in the real world. So I think it's equally as important as the technical side of skills are these soft skills or these personal skills that a lot of people don't focus on.
So I'm looking across all the things you're doing here. You've got, you work with the veterans, you've got the company doing the consultancy, you've got the academy side of things, you've got the huge presence, you're not only on YouTube, but Twitch and various other social media platforms, putting out huge amounts of content. I think your YouTube channel, I know it's not just you doing it now, but there's like 450 videos, millions of views, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. How do you balance doing all these things day to day?
That's the $1 million question. Learning to delegate was one of the hardest things for me because, hey, I can show you how to do this, but it's probably going to take you 4 times as long until you get up to speed. But I can go do it in a quarter of the time. So why don't I just go do that? Don't worry about it. And that becomes a really bad habit because you start to stack up all these, why don't I just go do that? And you are just overwhelmed. So you have to be able to trust other people to learn the process. And sure, they might be a little slower to get going, but the more repetition you get in, or more reps you get, the better that you're going to be at the job. And so, yeah, it was, okay, what do I need to focus on? As we scaled, I needed to focus on the educational piece, and I needed to focus on management and maybe a little bit less on YouTube. So yeah, I started pulling back there. Okay, maybe I'm not the core content creator anymore because my value is more important to managing and leading people and giving direction to scale this organization, more so than just being a guy creating courses. And so you have to pick and choose your battles because you're not going to be able to do everything as things grow. And so being able to delegate, being able to put trust in others, and then, yeah, time management is important. I work a lot of hours. As a CEO, it's almost expected. And so I was up last night until almost 4 a.m. recording content and doing things outside of my normal 9 to 5 because I'm in meetings all day and working with clients and doing other things. So you just have to figure out that balance for yourself and what works well for you, making sure, too, that you're taking care of family and friends and not neglecting them, and taking care of yourself, working out. If you go look through my older videos, I was a lot bigger. I started really skinny. I got really big because I was trying to take everything on, working a lot of hours, not taking care of myself. And so I got to the point where I'm going to take an hour a day, does not matter what it is. I'm going to go take that time to decompress, maybe go for a walk, maybe go shoot hoops. Doesn't matter. I got to give time to yourself as well. So make sure that you're allocating time for you, time for your family, time for work, and you're balancing that. Is not the easiest. I'm making it sound easy. It's not easy. You have to find your groove and what works best for you. And everybody's a little bit different, but don't be afraid to delegate, especially if you're in a position of management.
Yeah, fantastic advice there. I think that taking time for yourself is just a really important thing. And we often are in cultures where, like you say, you're at certain levels of management leadership, you're expected to be working long hours, all these kind of things happen. But you have to, in the same way that you prioritize, the welfare of your own people, you have to prioritize your own welfare a little bit as well and put that time in. I know I actually read in some previous interviews that you're a keen guitarist. Have you managed to find time in that schedule to fit in a bit of guitar practice as well?
That is one thing that has dropped off quite a bit. But no, I love playing guitar. I don't get to play it nearly as much as I want to. So I look forward to, I don't know, maybe I'll start like a garage band in 5 or 10 years. I don't know. But no, it's one of those focuses that I wish I can get to. I don't play enough.
So yeah, that's something you can't delegate to someone else either. So maybe if you can
correct.
find one more thing to delegate, you can maybe pick up the guitar again.
That's right.
So looking across the kind of the security journey that you've been on, the education you provide, if there's someone listening who's thinking, I'm not in the field of cybersecurity, or I'm in IT, or whatever it is today, but I really am interested in ethical hacking, penetration testing, consultancy, or even generating their own educational content out there, what would you say would be the important first steps to take?
Yeah, research, do your due diligence, go out there, and information changes fast. Cybersecurity changes fast. So if you're going to go look at like, how do I get to become an ethical hacker? Maybe like search Reddit from the last year or so, not the last 10 years or so, because the information there is probably not going to be the same as it used to be. And go look and say, okay, what are the core foundationals? For me, you should know Linux. You should know some programming. You should be able to read programming. You don't have to be a developer by any means. You should have some networking background, probably some A+ type background, help desk, security background. Doesn't mean you have to work in these things, but hey, if you go study an A+ course and get some of that foundational knowledge, it's going to help you be a better hacker. You go understand computer networks and how they operate, that's going to make you be a better hacker. And so you want to build the foundation before you build the home. So many people are like, oh, hacking's so cool, I'm going to jump right in the deep end. That sets you up for failure a lot of times because it is a lot of work and it's a lot of overwhelming information. And it's very easy to say, oh, this is too hard, I'm going to stop. But if you have the core foundational skills there, it helps you a lot. From there, you take those core foundational skills and you start just dipping your toe in the water for different areas. Maybe I like offensive security. Maybe I like defensive security. Maybe I'm into compliance or GRC. Just test the waters out. You don't have to go establish a full career in this. See what gets you excited to actually go in the morning and study, or whenever it is. Like, I'm excited to study. If you're saying, oh man, I got to study today, it's not going to be the field for you. So this is a field where we are constantly studying. So finding your passion early on, especially, is something that's incredibly important. So make sure you find that passion. And then my other advice too is we live in a world of social media. You are going to see all the successes upvoted to the top. And so everybody's doing everything right. Everybody's getting their certifications. Everybody's getting this new job. And you don't see all the failures along the way. You don't see how many times that person failed that certification exam, or how long they studied for, how many hours or years somebody put into time to get into that position. So what I tell people is run your own race. Comparison is the thief of joy. Run your own race. Don't compare yourself to others. Compare yourself to yourself and try to be a better version of yourself every single day. I want to know a little bit tomorrow more than I do today. And so as long as I'm self-improving and working towards that, who cares if somebody that started with you at the same time goes and does it in half the time that you do it? That's their race. That's not yours. Okay, you're going to pick up some speed somewhere and you're going to do things better than somebody else does. That's just how we operate. We're all a little bit different. So just focus on being a better version of you. And that's going to be the best outcome for you as well.
And on your journey, were there any particular pieces of advice you were given, or a mentor that stood out and really influenced the way you have approached your career and your journey so far?
Yeah, so I never actually took on a mentor per se, but I'm a big believer in mentorship by community. And so that's like why we have the community that we do, and we have people in there. And I believe in this idea of, again, giving back what you take. It's perfectly fine to join a community and say, hey, I'm having problems with this. Can somebody help me? Cool. That's how you're going to learn. Okay, well, if somebody's having a problem that you know the answer to, give back as well. Just be an overall good citizen and good person. And that mentorship is there. People want to help. People want to be able to give back to you, but you can't be the person that's always taking and not giving. And so you will get a reputation for that. So just make sure that you're kind of balancing that. But community is great. If you can find a mentor, that's great. A lot of cybersecurity people don't have the time to also do mentorship direct one-on-one. So finding them is a little bit more difficult. But if you join communities and you find people that are going through the same struggles that you're going through right now, or maybe have been through the same thing, or hey, even want to be where you're at right now, you can help those people. You can get help from the people that are a little bit further ahead. And I'm really big into community and finding mentorship through that way as well.
Fantastic. And thinking about all these wonderful things you're doing, all the things that keep you up till 4 a.m. already, I suspect you've probably got some more things in the pipeline. So what exciting upcoming projects or initiatives have you got at TCM that you'd like to share with us?
Sure. Yeah, we've got a lot of things going on. So we've got 3 full-time content creators now, myself not included in that. And so we're focusing on a few different areas. We talked about the practical help desk. So we're focusing on that junior level content. We just had a certification release this week, which was IoT hacking, which is really cool. It's something that we were able to do affordably. We don't have to worry about device supply and demand, and we were able to actually get this all into the cloud, which is really neat. We are working on advanced courses finally. And so we've got a practical web pen testing course coming out. We had a junior web pen testing course. We had the web pen testing course come out recently. We've got the certification coming out next month. We also just hired a blue team content creator. So we're finally getting into more of the blue side. We're working on a SOC 101 course. We're going to have a junior security analyst certification. It's going to be practical, kind of first of its kind. There's a lot of exciting things going on from the educational standpoint. But at this point, and this is serious, we legitimately got a complaint a couple weeks ago. It was like, you guys are putting out a new course every month. And it's like, yeah, that's what we're wanting to do. We're on a subscription model. So if we're not providing new content, you're going to not want to be there. And so we're in a place now where we've got basically 4 people working on content at any given time. We're putting out basically a course a month, and we're just growing and developing this academy into a really awesome platform. We've got a lot of cool certifications that are all practical and hands-on that people can go do. And hey, they're even getting on job descriptions and a lot of Fortune 100s now. And it's taken off a lot bigger than I ever imagined it doing. And so the scalability of where we're at and where we're going is going to be phenomenal.
I mean, it sounds like a real rocket ship. So where do you see yourself being in the next 5 to 10 years then?
Yeah, that's a tough question. We're growing. We're working on, from a development side, a B2B platform. So we've been focused B2C for the most part, but this B2B is going to be our test bed before we move the product into B2C. But we're doing live training right now. Those live training have labs. Everything from our academy is on demand. So, and I find value in that, by the way, building your own lab out, seeing why we're building what we're building, why it's vulnerable, better than just, hey, point, click, start lab. Okay, go attack this. So we're building out labs to where we're using those in live courses, and that way people can see or be able to experience things on demand. Our certifications are on demand already, which is great. And now we're taking that and we're moving that into a B2B platform where you have our training platform. You also have labs. You also have accountability. You can go in and assign licenses, and that's going to help us scale and reach a lot more people as well. And then eventually we're going to move into this 3-tiered model for our academy. We have 1 tier now. We want to have a free tier. Our intent is to have our help desk course completely free, and have some other courses that are over there, basic foundational stuff, completely free. And then on the paid side, we have our standard academy, and then we have a premium edition where if you want labs, cool, we'll give you the labs. If you want to download them, cool, you don't have to pay all that money to have the labs. And so we'll have options for people depending on their situation and everything else. So it's just scalability. There's things that you learn about that you don't realize, like ADA, American Disabilities Act here, having compliance for that in order to be able to reach educational institutions, and having subtitles and being compliant in different areas, and thinking about things you just don't think about until you're too big. And so, yeah, we're learning and we're growing. And so 5 years from now, I hope to be an industry leader in training and certifications. And we have this awesome B2B platform. We have these awesome tiers, and people are talking about us not just for cybersecurity, but they're talking about us for basic IT, for blue team, for everything, that we can be that one-stop shop. And that's what we're working towards.
Well, I certainly don't think you're going to have time to get that guitar out and get that garage band set up, but I'm really hopeful for the rest of us to be able to access all that content at, like you say, at whatever price point and accessibility point we need to be able to access it at. So I think that's really exciting. If people want to learn more about the offerings you have today, the content you're producing today and in the future, where is the best place to go and find more about that?
Yeah, tcm-sec.com or tcmsecurity.com will take you there. We have a few different subdomains. Academy is our training platform. Certifications are our certifications. And then the consulting side would just be on the main website. I would highly encourage people to check out our Discord community. Even if you don't ever buy anything from us, we've got 60,000 people in there that are all interested in cybersecurity. Again, all walks of life. Some people are in it. Some people are CISOs, CEOs, whatever, all the way down to, hey, I just started today. And so if you want to check that out, that's discord.gg/TCM or tcm-sec.com/Discord will get you there. And yeah, just check out the community, check out social media. We're posting stuff all the time. We're posting content. Check out YouTube for the Cyber Mentor. We release courses. We got a course coming out today on Rust programming. And so there's a lot of free knowledge out there that we don't even ask you to pay for anything. Come check out our community. Come hang out. come get knowledge on YouTube and some other places, and just come see what we have. I think we do really great training.
And we'll try and include as many of those links as possible in the description of this podcast to make it easier for people to track you down there. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for on this episode of Adventures of Alice and Bob. I'd like to thank our guest, Heath Adams, today for sharing his journey from unhappy accountant to the cyber mentor on a mission to make cybersecurity education accessible and affordable. His passion for putting people first and helping others succeed is a really wonderful thing. And I'm really hopeful that it's inspired some of our other listeners maybe to think about what they can do in their own roles to become cyber mentors and help other people out on their journeys. As always, thanks to our super producer, Ben Supercuts Kramer, and the team at Beyond Trust who make this podcast happen. I'm James Maud, and this has been Adventures of Alice and Bob.